Hi there, my name is Liz Moffat and I am, amongst other things, a human-centered designer, a breathwork meditation guide, a Reiki practitioner and a recreational athlete. I'm here in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm on Wurundjeri and Bunurong land. And I help people turn good ideas into great ideas through human-centered design, and I help people to feel their feelings through breathwork. And today I want to talk to you about accessibility and availability in design. So when you're designing a new product or a new service or even thinking about a new idea, I want to encourage you to think about accessibility and availability. And you may be thinking that the two words are quite similar, so why do we need to consider them both? And availability is it there? Does it exist? Whereas accessibility is about, can I get to it? Can I actually use it if I want to? So I'll give you an example. A co-worker, a friend at a previous workplace, was talking to me about swimming. And at the time, I was also working in the fitness industry as well as my corporate job. And working in the fitness industry meant that I spent a lot of time at a lot of different gyms, rec centres, leisure centres in the area. So my friend was asking me about swimming. And my friend also used a wheelchair. And I knew a place nearby that had a pool. So when I was next there, I looked to see if there was a hoist. So to help my friend get in and out of their chair and into the water. And there was one. So I was like, brilliant. Okay. Next, I looked for an accessible changing room. And there was one, but it was a little bit of a way away from the pool. And my friend would have to come out of the changing room and go past the area that was set up for people to kind of sit and socialise and stuff. So I'm like, nah, it's kind of okay, but not great. I mean, my friend's got to like wheel themselves in their bathers past people socialising to get into the pool and then coming back when they're soggy. So it's not great. So I had these two things, the hoist and the accessible changing room, and I was all set to report back to my friend the next morning. And as I was walking back to my car, I realised that the car park was gravel and there was no footpath. And I'd imagine that trying to push yourself through gravel in a chair is pretty challenging, and it's also potentially dangerous because you can't get out of the way in a hurry if somebody comes through in a car and they're not looking where they're going. So the next morning I checked in with my friend, I relayed all of my research, and they totally agreed with me that the gravel car park was not going to work. So it didn't really matter about the rest of the facilities because they couldn't actually get into the building in the first place. So while the pool was technically available because it existed, it wasn't actually accessible because they couldn't get into that building. So the sheer existence of something in a local area doesn't make it accessible. You need to consider, can people get to it easily? Is there public transport nearby within short walking distance? Are there parking options for people with limited mobility? If you require people to pay a fee to come in, are there different ways for them to pay that fee? So cash and card. If you're asking people to bring in documentation to set up a membership, is that documentation something that is easily available to everybody? I remember reading something around birth certificates, and whilst they're commonplace to be issued in countries like the US and the UK and Australia, they're not always issued. And I think it was piece that I was reading was about somebody in Cambodia, and they were saying like, when they were born, they didn't have birth certificates. So something that we take for granted, something that I would take for granted based on where I come from and the countries that I've grown up in, aren't universal around the world. Other things you might need to consider to make something as accessible as possible. Do you need to put signs in a different language? Do you need to have staff on hand who can sign in sign language? So whatever you're designing, whatever problem you're working on solving, remember to consider availability and accessibility. Because if you've got an amazing thing, but nobody can get to it, doesn't matter how amazing it is, no one can get to it. All right, that's enough for me. So thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.